There had never been a question as to whether there was a God or not. God was there. He was real. There was no question for me. The way that he fit into my life was what I always questioned. I felt like he was this big presence that didn't really have anything to do with my small little life. A lot of what I was taught as a child was that God is someone to be feared. It's either there's right and there's wrong, and if you do wrong, you know exactly where you're going. It's not a good place. I decided, well, I'm going to hell. That's it. That's all that's happening. That's sums it all up for me, and I can move on with my life knowing full well that I'm going to hell and that God just doesn't want anything to do with me. My tattoos for me are an armor. I feel like having these puts a little bit of a wall up with people. And in my youth, that's what I needed. I couldn't survive without it. I needed that separation between me and someone else, and physically tattooing myself was gonna do that for me. I was initially a call center representative, and I was promoted up to the supervisor position, and I went to another supervisor position. So I quickly moved up the ranks to where they ultimately said, we're moving our operations to Georgia. We want you to come with us. So I went. I met my ex-husband, who is also from Pennsylvania, in Georgia. We got married within a year of knowing each other. We were very bad with drug use together. We were doing a lot of pain pills, opioids, anything we could really get our hands on. And I was introduced on how to get this through the internet. So I was ordering them online, getting them delivered to my door. It was, a daily thing for me. Within 3 months of getting married, I was pregnant with my daughter, Ruby. After Ruby was born, he was unfaithful to me, and I was completely numb. I had no feeling. I didn't care. It was just the strangest, most out-of-body feeling that I've ever had. I just wanted to get home, and I wanted to get back to Pennsylvania. I was done. When I moved back home, I was introduced to Xanax, which is like a sedative in a way, and I was taking maybe 10 times the recommended dosage per day and driving to Philadelphia every day for my job. I was repeatedly getting in car accidents because I would nod off and hit someone. People always talk about their dream job and their dream career, and I had just watched it go in seconds. It was devastating. But my initial gut reaction was to do more drugs, which any addict will tell you that that's their coping mechanism is that. Mainly what I did was wake up in the morning and start drinking, and that would be all I did. I would black out routinely. For Christmas, I believe, of 2015, that would be, yes, 2015. My daughter was with me that Christmas, and I had promised myself on Christmas Eve that I would not drink that day. And I got maybe a half hour into my day and realized I could not do that, because at that point in alcoholism, you start physically showing if you're in physical withdrawal symptoms. So I would be just sweating and shaking, and I had to drink in order for to look normal. What was also a habit of mine was to drink too much beyond the point where I would just black out. So when we got to the church that day, within 15 minutes of me being there, I was gone. And I was basically carried out of the Christmas Eve service. I was just far gone and babbling, and it was just very, very upsetting for everyone around me. I woke up hours later, had missed Christmas, my daughter had gone home. My parents sat me down and had their little intervention, the kindest intervention that you could ever give a person, because they were very kind-hearted people. And I flatly told them, no, I don't want help. There was just so many forces, evil and good, at work in my life in those days, and it was very raw and very emotional for me. And I do feel like there was some type of like a fight going on for me. I went to jail for a DUI, and then again for driving without a license, and then for driving with a suspended license. It was just time after time, and it would be every 2 months I would go to jail for 3 days. But it took 6 individual trips to jail to finally get my wake-up call. I remember laying there and just called out and asked for help from Jesus. I never knew how to pray correctly before. I was always praying for something, like, give me this, give me that. If you only give me this, this will make my life better. If you only do this for me, it'll make my life better. But in that moment, I learned I have to ask for strength. I have to ask for understanding. I have to ask for hope. Not asking to be out of a situation, because no one was getting me out of that situation, but asking for help going through it. So I am now 2 years sober, a little bit over 2 years. I have been able to get more and more time together, or time with my daughter, and she now is here about 3 months out of the year. In the car the other day when we were driving, she goes, I know where you were, Mom. And I said, what are you talking about? She goes, you were in rehab. And I go, yeah, I was in rehab. And she goes, yeah, but, and it really helped you. She knew when I was sick, and she could see that. And now she sees and gets to experience the best version of me. I'm so used to things going bad, and I'm so used to things just falling apart. And this past 2 years, nothing's fallen apart. I used to think of my tattoos as an armor and as a shield from the outside world. And now I kind of enjoy when people ask me about them. I like that they separate me from the pack, and I don't look at them at all as something to hold me back or something to keep me isolated from people. Instead, now they're just a celebration of life and just adding color to the world and telling a story. I think that the rest of my life is going to be about telling my story. I also decided to go back to college after 20 years of not going, and I'm going to be a social worker. So I'm using my experience and the rough things that I've gone through for good, and to help other women in my similar situation that might not know how to get out of their situation. And I think that once you realize his presence and how big and powerful it is, it's life-changing. My life was saved by Christ. It was not just merely changed. It was, without him, I would not be here.